Well, hello everybody. My name's Dan Mullaney with 4Energy, and we're here to talk a little bit about home efficiency and sustainability and what's going on with your home. I'm sure a lot of you right now, you're at home with everything going on. You're learning a little bit more about your home and what's going on with it, especially where now you're at home before you might have been at work or at school. Finding out more about the hot spots, running the air conditioner longer. You might notice electric bills going up a little bit higher. So we're here to talk a little bit about some things that you can do on your own and some things that maybe you can look at different companies to come out and help you out with in making your home more balanced as well as more efficient. The big problem right now is, again, as I mentioned, a lot of people are at home. They're using more power. We've noticed that most families' homes are using anywhere from 15 to 30% more power than what they were the previous years. The other big thing is the fact that temperature has gone up a lot too. Now, we've noticed in the past 20 years, electric bills on average have been increasing about 3.5% to 5% every single year. So people are trying to figure out how they can take control of this a little bit better so that they can protect themselves from those ever increasing prices from the utility companies. The two major utility companies that we deal with out here are APS and SRP. And we work with them as a participating contractor with the Home Performance with Energy Star program. Now, there's a lot of great rebates that both SRP and APS have available to dispense out to homeowners. And that's one thing that 4Energy does very well at, is helping you understand where these rebates come from and how you can facilitate these rebates and take advantage of them. Because we're paying into them every single month when we pay our electric bills. And we've been doing that since 2010. So might be nice to get some of that money that we've been giving over to the utility companies so that we can reinvest that into our homes and make the homes more comfortable, more energy efficient. Now, the way the process typically goes on the efficiency sides for the programs is we come out, being a Peoria resident, 4Energy has a partnership with Peoria where we extend out and we do a complimentary BPI certified audit of your entire home. It's typically a 2 to 3 hour audit of your home to help you identify areas in your home that are inefficient or not meeting Energy Star standards. Then we send out an energy consultant to kind of go over those findings with you and help you identify those areas and come up with different solutions on how to correct those issues and make the homes more energy efficient, as well as adding value to the home. Now, with these recommendations as well, all of this work is done to Energy Star standards, so everything is Energy Star certified and also Pearl certified. Now, Pearl is a national organization that works directly with the real estate and mortgage industries, and they help to justify home value when you do stuff like this and make your home a green energy home. So if you want more information on that stuff there, you can feel free to call 4Energy at any time. One of the things that we're going to talk a lot about today is what those reports look like, a lot about the DIY things. Everybody's home right now, they're looking for things to do, so we're going to go over some things that we can help you out with and making your home more energy efficient. So the first thing that I like to talk about is smart thermostats. Now, these are the types of thermostats that you can actually hook up and connect to your Wi-Fi. Typical ones are Nest, Ecobee, Honeywell, Train. They all have these different Wi-Fi enabled thermostats. Now, there's a couple benefits of having a smart thermostat. First, they're really easy to program. You can program right through your smartphone through the app, or you can go online to the website, or you can go over and manually program them. Now, the purpose of the programming is so if you're on a time of use program with SRP being the Easy 3 program, where your on-peak hours are between 3 and 6 p.m., or APS, you have a Saver Choice plan where your on-peak hours are from 3 to 8 p.m. And those are Monday through Fridays. Weekends, there are no on-peak hours. So a lot of people do things like supercooling. For instance, in my home, I'm an SRP. I supercool my house, meaning I bring my thermostat down to about 72 to 74 degrees at noon during the off-peak hours when I'm only getting charged about 7 to 8 cents a kilowatt hour. So now I'm cooling my home during those off-peak hours, getting it nice and cold, and then in essence, bringing the thermostat all the way up to 82 to 84 degrees, or even in some cases, people just shut it off altogether, and then just drifting through that timeline. So the house gradually warms up. Now, if your home is not that efficient, it's probably not going to work. But if you have a good, efficient home, good levels of insulation, good windows, good seals around the home, then this can be a very substantial savings. So by doing that, you're eliminating that higher cost power of 25 to 35 cents a kilowatt hour from APS or SRP during those on-peak hours. It has a feature called Cool Control. And what this does is it runs your blower motor from anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, depending on how long your air compressor was running for and how much latent energy is built up in your coils. So your coils are still cold, so it runs the blower motor even after the compressor shuts off, which is the part that's using most of the electricity, and it moves air over those coils, still pushing cold air into the home, keeping it cooler for a longer period of time. Again, that one little feature can save you anywhere from 8 to 12% on your cooling costs. So it's a big benefit to take advantage. Other little things is if you go out of the house for a long period of time, some of them go into what's called an eco mode. So it'll actually automatically kick your air conditioning over so it stays at, say, 82 degrees or whatever you set it at, because it doesn't make sense to cool your home when there's nobody around. So those are some of the features and benefits of the smart thermostats. One big other benefit is financial benefits in the form of a rebate. So both SRP and APS have rebates for this. So we can help you more with that, or you can just go right to SRP's website or APS's website and just type in thermostat rebate, and you can learn more about those. So right now, APS has a $30 rebate for a smart thermostat. SRP has a $75 rebate for a smart thermostat, and I believe it's up to 2 thermostats per household. And the SRP has a recurring $25 bill credit every year to stay on that program, and APS has another program called Cool Savings, where they'll pay you an additional $75 and a recurring $25 every single year to participate in that. So definitely go and check those out once you do install your smart thermostats, or if you already have a smart thermostat and you haven't checked that out, go sign up and take advantage of that today. Other things is making sure that you're on the right rate plan. Now, this is something where our energy consultants really kind of delve into with you, because there's a lot of families out there that are not on the right rate plans, or they don't know what their on-peak and their off-peak hours are. So we kind of help to educate you on that, to make sure that you understand when your on-peak hours are, so that you can kind of reduce your power consumption or energy consumption during those hours. APS, about 3 years ago, they changed all of their rate plans. Nobody's grandfathered into any of the old rate plans anymore. So if you are on one of their time of use, which is Saver Choice Plus, or Saver Choice Max, those all have on-peak hours Monday through Friday from 3 to 8 p.m. Now, the Saver Choice Plus and Saver Choice Max also go into a demand charge. So that's something else that, if you're not aware of, you definitely want to look into, because that in itself could really be taking up and costing you more money than actually saving you if you're not using that right. And the demand charges usually take place during those on-peak hours of 3 to 8 p.m. Other things that you can do around the house. Have you ever looked at your external doors, either going, your front door or your door going into the garage? Can you see daylight coming through those doors? You can go down to the local hardware store or Home Depot or Lowe's, buy a weather stripping kit, and put new weather stripping all the way around your door. Another big issue is the threshold of the doors. So there's a piece that goes on underneath there. It's usually held in with 4 or 5 self-tapping screws, and that seals the threshold from the door, so that you don't not only keep the bugs out, but it also keeps the hot air from coming in underneath the door and getting into the home, or the cold air from getting pushed outside. Garage door insulation. So on the inside of your garage door, you have these rectangles in there for the framing. Well, you can go down to Home Depot and Lowe's, and you can buy a pre-cut garage door insulation kit. They're typically $50 to $75 per door. So if you have a 2-car garage and 1 big door, you'll still need 2 kits. So just remember that. But they're very easy to pop in. They're all pre-cut. They just pop right into the rectangles. And it's about a 1-inch foam board with a reflective barrier on one side to help reflect the heat out from coming into those garages. Now, that'll keep the temperature down. It's not going to make it a habitable area, but it'll definitely help to keep that temperature down a little bit, maybe knock it down 5 to 10 degrees. And every little bit helps. Another big issue that we have out here, and me being from Boston, one of the things that I saw and noticed was hot water tanks only have a 6-year warranty on them. Well, back up in Boston, it was either a 10 or a 12 year. Down here, it's 6 years because of how hard our water is. Now, one of the things that's highly recommended is at the bottom of your hot water tank, there's a little drain valve on there. It almost looks like a hose spigot. So you want to attach a hose to that, run it out the garage or run it out wherever it is that you need to get outside, and drain that at least once a year. Now, if your hot water tank is over 7 years old and you haven't started doing this or have never done it before, I don't recommend starting to do it right now. But if it's new, it's 7 years or newer, then yes, it might be something you might want to look into. There's a lot of great videos on YouTube, just YouTube either electric hot water tank or gas hot water tank draining. And that'll give you a quick 5-minute tutorial videos. But it's very easy to do, very quick to do, and it's going to extend the life of that water tank a lot longer. Servicing your air conditioning. This is one thing that I see a lot of families not doing enough of. This should be done at least once a year, if not twice. But preferably at least once a year. I recommend right around March or April before we get into the hot weather, having an air conditioning tech come out, service the AC. One of the parts that they should be doing, and this is something that I encourage all families to make sure that they kind of follow their tech around, make sure when they're going to the air handler, which is usually in a closet or up in the attic, they're taking off the panel to access the coils and actually cleaning the coils. Because the coils catch all that excess dirt and debris that might be getting sucked in from not having your ductwork properly sealed, or it might be pulling in air over the filters, or I've even been in homes where they didn't even have a filter in place. So it's just sucking all this air and other debris in from the home, and that's just building up around the coil. It's not allowing the coil to work effectively. And having that cleaned off once a year, they usually put a non-corrosive solution on there as well, which will help it from rusting over time. So service that air conditioning unit at least once or twice a year, and find yourself a good, reputable service tech that can perform that for you. Another thing that you can do if you haven't already done, LEDs. Now, a lot of people tell me with the LEDs, Dan, I don't want LEDs. They're too bright or they're too expensive. LED prices have come way down. They're pretty much the same price as your regular incandescent bulbs now. You can go down to Costco or Sam's Club. You can buy them in bulk. They usually come out to maybe $1 or $2 a bulb. And these are tremendous because an LED bulb uses about 80% less power than your traditional incandescent bulb. Not only that, but it only puts off about 80 to 85 degrees of heat as opposed to 200 degrees with your incandescent bulbs. So you're actually introducing less heat into your home as well. And with LEDs, you can actually get different levels of lighting. So you don't have to have the super white. Myself, I like the white. I like it nice and bright in my house. I like to see what I'm doing. Other people like the natural color or the cool colors or that yellow incandescent color. So go down, buy a color of each. There's even bulbs out there, like for the can lights that you can insert, and on the back side, there's 4 different level switches. So you can actually just change the lighting right there in the fixture, and they're very easy to install. So get out there, just don't wait till your existing bulbs burn out, just go replace them all. Smart power strips are something else that are nice to use, especially on entertainment systems where you have a lot of components. So you might have your TV and then a DVD player and your cable box and the kid's Xbox, or maybe the parent's Xbox, I don't know. But you have a lot of different components. Now in my home, I noticed my son, he definitely shuts off the TV, but he never figures out to turn off the PS4 or the Xbox or whatever game system he's playing. DVD, same thing. So all these other things are having small drains on our electrical load. So what a smart power strip does is you plug the TV in to the main outlet, and there's usually 4 other outlets that are connected to that you can plug your DVD player in, plug your game systems in, or whatever other devices that you have. So once you shut the TV off, that'll automatically shut off all these other devices, so you don't have that phantom power being drawn off your electricity load. Other things, and this one blows everybody's mind, is don't run fans when you're not in the room. So if you're in the room, or you're going to bed, you like the fan. I like to sleep with the fan on above me. When I'm sitting down watching TV, I like my fan on. I like that little breeze going over me. But when you're not in the room, the fan does absolutely nothing for you. You're just using power that you don't need to be using, as well as those fan motors will put off about 115 to 120 degrees of heat in your home. One of the devices I'm going to show you here shortly is a thermal imaging device. And we'll go into homes and we'll kind of go around and people will be running their fans 24/7. And we'll put the thermal camera on there seeing 127 to 130 degrees coming off these fan motors. So just get in the habit, shut the fans off after you leave the room. If you have kids, it's probably going to be a little bit more challenging, but you just got to keep on top of it, I guess. And then not many families have these, but fireplaces. Fireplaces are a big culprit of energy loss. So making sure if you do have a regular wood burning fireplace that your flue is shut. Now, if you have a gas or a gas insert fireplace, you cannot shut the flue. You probably don't even have a flue because that's supposed to stay open for building code purposes. But if you have an old style wood burning fireplace, look up inside, make sure your flue is closed. If you never use the fire or it's summertime, you can actually go on Amazon and buy what's called a Mylar flue stop. It's just a Mylar balloon with a stick that wedges up inside there, which gives the inside of the fireplace a seal. Because think about this, that flap that you have up in there, it's just a metal flap. It's not sealed. When your air conditioner is running, it's pressurizing your home. Guess where that nice cold air is going? It's going right up through your chimney. And then when your AC stops, guess where that heat's going? It's coming right down your chimney. Now, a lot of people think, well, heat rises. That's not the case. Hot air rises, heat transfers from hot to cold. So if it's 80 degrees in your home or 78 degrees in your home and it's 110 outside, well, guess where that heat's going to be going? And also, if it's 160 in your attic, guess where that heat's going to be going? And we'll talk a little bit more about attic insulation and those parts as well. When we go through a home, we are looking at things to meet Energy Star code, not standard Arizona building code. A lot of families ask me, Dan, why are you failing me here? Why are you failing me there? Well, it's because it doesn't meet Energy Star code. Just because you have a window with dual pane glass doesn't mean it's Energy Star rated. If it has an aluminum frame and it's an older aluminum frame, that frame's conducting heat. The number one conductor of heat is aluminum. That's why we cook on it. And for some reason, we thought it was a good idea to install aluminum framed windows in homes in the middle of the desert. Not the best idea. But there's other things that we look at, as far as the dual pane, making sure that the windows have a proper low E coating inside as well to reflect that heat out. So different things like that, as we go through. Now, one of the first things that we look at is room pressures. Now, when an auditor comes out to your home and they actually set up to do an inspection on your home, one of the things that we do is what's called a blower door test. So in your front door, garage door, wherever we can fit this fan, we set up an insert that goes into the door, and then there's a fan that gets tied in, and that fan starts to decompressurize the house. So it's pulling air out of the house. We want to find out how leaky the home is. Now, you do want some leakage in your home. You don't want your home, super tight, because otherwise you're going to have other issues. So during this process, before we start running that fan, what we'll do is we'll run the air conditioning unit, and we have a device called a manometer. And I wish I had brought it, but I didn't, but make pretend it's right here. So the manometer allows us to get these readings. So as the air conditioner is running, we close all the doors in the bedroom. And we have a hose that goes under the door, and that hose attaches to our manometer, and then we can determine what the pressure is in that room. And the higher the pressure, the worse it's off. Because ultimately, we want a good pathway back to the return for that air to get back to and properly circulate. So as the air is dumping into a bedroom, we want that air to get back to the return and properly circulate, so it's constantly going. If you have a room that has a high pressure, well, now that air can't get back to the return, and what happens is it starts pushing into other areas. It's just like water. Next thing you know, you have cold air getting pushed up your internal walls, out through your windows. It's trying to find the path of least resistance to get out. It's got to go somewhere. So Energy Star typically will recommend what's called a jump duct or a transfer grill. A transfer grill goes over the door. Jump duct is just a vent that goes from the room over into the hallway. So if the door is closed, the air can still get out. We recommend just opening your doors, because how much does it cost to turn a knob and open up your door? Nothing. Now, if you have teenagers, that's going to be on you to get them to keep their doors open. But other than that, try and keep the doors open. That will allow that airflow to properly circulate throughout the home. Other things that we look at talking about air circulation is your return grills, where your filters go. Now, first off, your filters should be changed out at least once a month, especially during the summer. You could probably go every 2 or 3 months in the winter time if you're not running the heater that often. But we all run the air conditioning down here, and it's running probably anywhere from 8 to 15 hours a day, depending on how old your air conditioning is and how efficient it is and how efficient your house is. So one of the things that we recommend, first off, just use the cheap Easy Flow air filters. It's like a green or a white mesh filter. Usually you can buy them online, like through Amazon. They usually come in a 12-pack for anywhere from $35 to $45 for a 12-pack. Just swap them out once a month. That's another nice thing with the smart thermostats. The smart thermostat will tell you, hey, it's time to change your filter. So make sure you're changing those out once a month. Now, most homes that we go into, they also have what's called a stamp face grill. So it's just a metal grill with a bunch of little fins in it. And this is pretty standard in most homes. It's a contractor grade grill. Now, one of the things that does is it actually prohibits the airflow going through your return. So if you're using one of those really heavy duty filters, like an allergen filter, I've seen people paying $20, $30 a filter. You're doing more harm than good. That filter is doubled with the stamp face grill is creating a high static pressure, which is actually going to make your air conditioner die a lot faster. And it's actually going to make it have more servicing issues down the road as well. So we want that free airflow going through that return so that your air conditioning can breathe nice and easy. All right. So Energy Star recommends what's called a bar style or T-bar grill, which is more open. The fins are more of a perpendicular up and down. They don't have more, like the 45-degree angle like your stamp-faced grills do. So you want to use a T-bar grill as well as the cheap air filters, increase the airflow on the return side. That's going to actually push more air throughout the home as well and extend the life of your air conditioning overall. The other things that we look at when we're looking at air conditioning units, making sure that your air conditioners are properly sized, as well as the returns are properly sized. Lots of times we go out to homes and the return is undersized. So rule of thumb, if you have a 16-inch return, which is the opening behind the filter, that moves roughly about 1,000 CFM of air. Well, an air conditioning unit should be moving about 400 CFM of air per ton. So if you have a 5-ton unit, you should be moving about 2,000 CFM of air. But if you have a 5-ton unit with only a 16-inch line, you're only moving 1,000 CFM of air. So you're only allowing that AC unit to work at about 50% of its capacity. And we see this a lot. So the fix there is to put a return somewhere else with another line running to it so that we can maximize the airflow going in there and we can get up to that 2,000 CFM of air so that the air is properly moving throughout the home. So this is one of the reasons why air conditioners might run long periods of time, or you might find areas in your home not getting enough airflow, or they're hot and you can reach up and you can barely feel any air coming out. Well, it's because the air that's going in is not adequate to push enough air out on the other side. Some homes have what's called a platform return, and this is a return that's underneath your air handler. Typically, these air handlers are in the closets, and you'll have a return lower on the floor. So lots of times we look in there, nothing's sealed. It looks like there's a bunch of hair and dirt and everything else in there. And what that causes is, again, high static pressures on your air conditioning on the return side. What's happening is it's pulling the air down from the internal walls that lead up into your attic. So it's pulling all the dirt, dust, insulation, heat, and then sucking that up into the underside of your air handler. So making sure that your platform returns are properly sealed. You should be able to look in there. It's a nice, clean space. That's all sealed up, not allowing any air outside of just that one area to get pulled up into. Air conditioning units. So these typically over about 10 or 12 years old is outside Energy Star standards. The other big thing with air conditioning units, and many people have probably heard of this, is the phase out of the old Freon R22, and the new the new Freon is the 410A. So most of your AC unit, or all of your AC units today, come with the new Freon. The old Freon you cannot take and kind of just convert your old unit over to 410A. The whole unit has to be swapped out. You can still charge up the old R22. However, the price of R22 is steadily increasing because as of January 1st this year, it has been completely phased out. So it's all about supply and demand. Right now, it's probably anywhere from $200 to $400 per pound for the R22 Freon. So in a lot of cases, if they have a really bad leak, it makes more sense just to swap out the unit. It's going to be a lot more affordable and make a lot more sense. Other things that we help families with is their duct work. So lots of times we go up into attics. Again, you might have a room that is not getting enough proper airflow. And when we get up there, we notice that there's either kinks in the flex lines that are going to those rooms. Some homes that we've been into, the flex lines have been completely disconnected and they're just blowing cold air up into the attic, which is good for me when I'm crawling an attic, not so good for the family. Hard trunk lines, lots of times these are rusted out. There's been many times when we've gone in to try seal hard trunk and the whole bottom of it is all completely rusted because many years it ran a swamp cooler through it, and a swamp cooler is bringing in moisturized air, which doesn't make well with sheet metal, and over time it starts to rust out. And all that rust is, again, getting blown into your home. So from an air quality standpoint, it's making the air quality very poor in the home. We've gone into many homes where before we got in there and did the work, they had issues with asthma, allergies, different respiratory issues. And after we helped them out with sealing up their ductwork, their allergies or their asthma or whatever actually started to subside. So and it's because it's helping to clean up that air. Most of the homes that we go into, the ductwork is very leaky, and that leaky duct is actually pulling air in from your attic. And if you've never been in your attic, it's not a clean space. All right, you got a lot of dirt, a lot of dust, a lot of insulation, and not only that, a lot of heat. So as I mentioned earlier, attics out here are clocked in anywhere from 160 to 180 degrees. So it's not a place where you want to be doing a lot of hanging out. And you don't want to be pulling in that 180 degree temperature and blowing it into your home either. So make sure your ductwork is properly strapped, properly sealed, and that'll help improve your air quality, as well as you're not losing that cold air to your attic, so it's going to help reduce that electric bills. Other things that we look at is how well sealed your attic is from your living space. Now, one of the devices I had mentioned that we use, it's a FLIR camera. So this is a little device that just plugs into the bottom of our smartphones, and we have an app that we go into, and then we just turn on the camera, and then what will happen is we can start going around and doing thermal imaging of the house. Let me just turn this, here it comes. So as you can see here, and you might not be able to see the best, but as you go around, you can start seeing how everything is going. So this TV, for instance, you can see my hand kind of coming through, and you can see the heat that's coming down here. So what we'll do is we'll go through the home, and we'll start actually scanning the home, especially in the troubled areas, and identifying if there's significant heat leakage that's coming down from the attic. Usually we find this at the top plates of interior walls. So interior walls are not insulated. They have a lot of wire penetrations and pipe penetrations. So this is areas where the heat can actually travel down the interior walls. So what we find when we go through with this device is we'll see temperatures hitting up around 155, 160 degrees. I'll give you an example. We were at a house in Tempe, and the customer's home in the kitchen was extremely hot. He couldn't understand why. Well, when I went up and did the inspection, across the top was a chase that was completely open that the contractor never sealed up. It ran about 6 feet long. It looks like they were maybe going to run pipes and wires down there. They just didn't use it, so they didn't seal it up. When I did a thermal image, it was sitting at about 148 to 150 degrees of heat just coming off his interior walls, like having a heater inside his house. And so we're able to seal that, cap it, and then insulate it properly, and that was able to eliminate the heat that was transferring from the attic down into his living space. So a FLIR camera is what we use. That's one of the tools that our auditors use when we're out in the field trying to identify what's going on with a home. Now, during this process, we are also looking at whole home leakage. We want to see how leaky the home is. Now, the leakage is based on pascals. And for instance, an ACH reading of about 5 pascals is considered good for new construction today. You do want some leakage in your home. You don't want the home to be too tight. If it's too tight, then you'll start having to deal with mechanical ventilation to make sure that we're moving air around. If it's too tight and you don't have the right ventilation, you'll start dealing with high humidity levels and mold and other issues like that, just uncomfortable hot spots. So that is something that we'll look at, and we'll try to help out with sealing up. Single pane windows are a big issue to that. We'll have homes that are in double digits, and then once we put new windows in, all of a sudden it comes into the norm. So those help tremendously. When we're up in the attic, we're also looking at insulation levels. Now, insulation levels for energy code has changed over the years, and it's got higher and higher. An IECC code for 2015, as of right now, is an R38 is what's recommended in homes here in Arizona. So we typically want to bring it up a little bit higher because we know insulation is going to settle a little bit. And if your home was built 5, 8, 10, 12 years ago, chances are you probably only have about 6 or 8 inches. You should be closer to about 14 to 16 inches of insulation. So you're probably about half of where you really need to be. And it was around 2006 is when most of the energy codes started getting implemented into new construction. So if your home was built prior to 2006, chances are you might not even have any insulation, especially if it was built back in the 80s. Now, a lot of homes in Peoria, as well as Scottsdale and PV, we find when we get up there have batt insulation, which is definitely not recommended. Batt insulation is great for walls, not for the floor of your attic, because typically what we find is the batt insulation is not nice and tight and snug against the drywall of the ceiling. You have wires running underneath them, or can lights or junction boxes, so these are popping that insulation up, allowing gaps for the heat to get down and transfer down into your living space. Blown cellulose or blown fiberglass is the type of insulation that is recommended, or newer construction today is doing spray foam, which is super efficient. Which is actually, when you spray foam your attic, what's nice about that is you have an area now that's not 160 to 180 degrees. It's typically maybe about 5 degrees warmer than what the interior of your home is. So you can actually use it for storage and other things. So the spray foam is a great alternative. It's a little bit more challenging to retrofit it into an existing build as opposed to implementing it while the home is being newly built. So we just recommend, if you have a regular home right now, unless you have a really big open wide space in your attic, just sticking with blown cellulose or blown fiberglass type of insulation. Going back to the ductwork, one of the things I wanted to mention is lots of times when we get into an attic, we notice that the ductwork is crushed or it's not it's falling apart. Well, one of the things that we've come up with is a tape measure so that we can identify how big a duct is, so we can replace it with the proper size ducting. So you can see different numbers that are on here. So the auditors, what they can do is they can take this tape measure, wrap it around the collar, and they can identify exactly how big that duct line is, so that we can bring the proper size duct length out there, or diameter, to replace that with. Other things that we use in the house is a thermal imaging gun. So this is something that will go around and we'll do temperature splits on your air conditioning, for instance. So we'll run the air conditioner for about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll take the gun and we pull the trigger, and then the temperature will show up here. So you can see the TV right now is about 86 degrees. So we'll hold this and we'll point it up towards the return, find out what the temperature of the air is going into the return, and then what we'll do is we'll go around and test some supplies. Because typically we want to see a temperature split of anywhere from 18 to 22 degrees. So if it's going in at 80, it should be coming out the other end at around 60 degrees. Now, if it's coming in closer to about 10 degrees or 12 degrees, or it's not in between that, 18 to 22, then it could be a couple different things. They might have severe leakage in their ductwork. They might need servicing. The coils might be all just gunked up. So there's a couple different things that we can look at. Or it just might be time for a new air conditioning unit because the Freon just might be all leaked out. Now, windows, one of the things that we look at is the number of BTUs of heat that are coming through windows. So this is a BTU solar meter that we use, that at the top here, we put that up against the glass, and that will tell us how many BTUs are coming through that window. Now, with windows, we don't always recommend just having to replace windows. If you have a lot of heat coming through, yes, you might have an aluminum frame, but the windows are still in good order. They can open, they can close, and when you look at a window, 90% of the heat's not coming through the frame, it's coming through the glass itself. So a more affordable alternative, instead of replacing all of the windows in your home, which can be on the expensive side, is filming the windows that are the culprits. So your sun-struck windows, or typically your west side, east side, and south side. The ones that we really recommend are east and west side. South side would be like the third stage, because that's where you're typically getting most of your heat coming through in the summer months, because the sun is running pretty much right across the top of your house. We talked about water heaters, draining those once a year. If you have gas in the home, the tankless water heaters are a great alternative when it comes time to having to swap that out. If you have electric, I haven't really had great feedback on the tankless for electric, but I have had a great experience with Rheem has come out with a polybutylene tank. It's a plastic hot water tank. You can actually get them built in with timers. So you can set the timer so that they don't run during those on-peak hours. So it's another thing that you can set up in your home if you do have an electric hot water tank. You can set that timer so it's just shut off between 3 and 8 or 3 and 6, depending on if you're APS or SRP. That's kind of really about it. Other things that we look at, big picture, we always want to make sure the home's efficient first. But you might notice more and more solar going up throughout the state of Arizona. And it makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of sun here. However, we always encourage people to reduce, then produce. It doesn't make sense putting a bunch of panels up on your home and still having a home that has hot spots or just wasting power, and it's just not efficient. So we want to reduce the amount of power that you're using in your home, make sure your home is nice and efficient, and then you possibly can go with a smaller solar system, which makes more sense and it can work more efficient, and you'll be happier in the long run. And it's going to add more value to your house as well. So that is all I have for today. If you do want more information, if you want to take advantage of that complimentary BPI certified audit, call 4Energy 480-699-1481. Let them know that you're a Peoria resident. You heard about this from Sustainable You here in Peoria, and you want to find out what's going on with your home. There's no obligation. We come out, we do a 2 to 3 hour audit. We actually send an energy consultant to go over all the findings and identify what's going on with your home, help you understand how your home is working and performing from an efficiency standpoint. And then we come up with a custom solution on how you can correct those issues. With a lot of the stuff you're just doing on your own. So I hope you found this very helpful today. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day.